أحببتنا وأنتنا وحفظتنا وقبضتنا إليك وأشفقت علينا وعذبتنا وأتيت بنا هذه الساعة صراحة يا محب البشر إن احنا نكمل هذا اليوم المقدس وكل أيام حياتنا كل سلام خوفك كل حسد وكل تجربة وكل فعل الشيطان مؤامرات الناس الأشرار وقيام الأعداء خافين والظاهرين انزعها عنا ونسيب شعبك عن موضوعك المقدس هذا أما الصالحات والنفعات فارزقنا إياها لأنك أنت الذي أعطيتنا السلطان أن ندوس على الحياة والعقارب وكل قوة العدو وتدخلنا في تجربة لكن نجينا من الشرير بالنعمة والرفاة ومحبة البشر لولاية لابنك الوحيد ربنا ولانا مخلصنا يسوع المسيح هذا الذي من قبله المجد والكرامة والعزة والسجود تليق بك معه المحي مساوي لك الآن وكل أوان ظهر الدهور آمين.
ارحمنا يا الله كعظيم رحمتك ومثل قسوة رأفتك امحو اسمي وتغسلني كثيرا من اسمي ومن خطيئتي طهرني لأني عارف باسمي وخطيئتي أمامي في كل حين لك رحتك أخطأت والشر قدامك صنعت لكي تبرر فيها أقوالك وتطلب إذا حكمت لأني أنزل بالآثام حب بي وبالخطايا ودتني أمي لأنك هكذا قد أحببت الحق إذا أوضحت لي غوامر حكمتك ومقصورتك توضح علي بزوجتك تغسلني فبيضت أكثر من السلب تسمعني سرورا وفرحا فيبتاج زمن منصحك تتفرج عن خطايا وكل إنسان قلبا نقيا يخلق فيا الله روح مستقيما جديدا فيا أحشاء لا تطرحني من قدام وجهك روحك القدوس لا تنزعه من امنحني بهجة خلاصك والروح رئاسي عضدني فأعظم الاسم طرقك منافقون إليك يرجعون نجيني من الدم يا الله لا خلاص في تاج لساني بعد يا رب افتح شفتاي فيخبر فمي بتسبيحك لأنك لو وصلت الذبيحة فكنت لا ولكنك لا تصر المخلوقات فالذبيحة لا روح من صحك القلب المنكسر متواضع لا يرزقه الله أنعم يا رب أسيرتك على صهيون كنت صار شديد إن يزيد سر بالذبائح
قدام المسيح ملك وإلهي وأرجونا اغفر لي خطاياي من مزامير 30 معلم داود النبي بركاته على جميعنا آمين من أعماق صدقت إليك يا رب استمع صوتك تكن أذنك غاية عنا صوت الراعي إن كنت لا سامع رصيدا يا رب من يثبت لنا عنك صابت نفسي ناموسك انتظرت نفسي محو الصبح بالليل محو الصبح فانتظر إسرائيل الرب لأن رحمة من عند الرب عظيمة وخلاصه ويفتدي إسرائيل من كل آثامه هللويا سبح يا رب سبح رب حياتي وكل إلهي ما كنت موجودا لا تتكل على رؤساء ولا على بني البشر الذين ليس عندهم خلاص فخرجوا يعودون يتردون في ذلك اليوم طولت فكة أفكارهم طوبى لمن إله يعقوب معين واتكلوا على رب إلههم الذي صنع السماء والأرض والبحر وكل ما فيها الحافظ العدل للظهر الصانع الحكم للمظلومين المعطي الجائع الطعام الموقدين يا رب يقيم الساقطين يا رب يحكم العميان يا رب يحب الصديقين يا رب يحفظ الغرباء يقيم الأرملة ويدين طريق الخطاة ويملك رب إلى الدهر وإلهك يا صهيون من جيل إلى جيل هللويا سبح يا رب يا أورشليم سبح إلهك يا صهيون وبارك بنيك فيك الذي جعل تقومك في سلام ويملأك من شحم الحنطة الذي يسر كلماته على الأرض فيسع قوله عاجلا جدا المعطي ثلث الصوف المزل ضباب كرامات ويوم بعيد مسلك فتات قدام وجهه برضه من يقوم يسر كلماته
وأحكام لم يوضحها على أهو هللويا وإذ إنسان كان بأورشليم اسمه سمعان وهذا الإنسان كان برا تقيا متوقعا تعزية إسرائيل والروح القدس كان عليه وكان قد علم بوحي من الروح القدس أنه لا يرى الموت قبل أن يعاين المسيح الرب فأقبل بالروح إلى الهيكل ولما دخل بالطفل يسوع أبويه ليصنعانه كما يجب في الناموس حمله سمعان على ذراعيه وبارك الله قائلا الآن يا سيدي تطلق عبدك بسلام حسب قولك لأن عيني قد أبصرت خلاصك الذي أعددته قدام جميع الشعوب نورا تجلى للأمم ومجدا لشعبك إسرائيل والمجد لله دائما أبدا
Christus nimbek ناينا
وإذا أنا أتيت أن أقف أمام الديان العادل المرعوب وأنا مرتعد من كثرة ذنوبي لأن الأمر المنكسر في الملائكة يستجب الدينونة لكن توبي يا نفسي ما دمت على الأرض ساكنة لأن التراب في القبر لا يسبح، وليس في الموت ما يذكر، ولا في الجحيم ما يشكر، بل انهدي من ركاب الكسل وتضرعي إلى مخلص بالتوبة، قائلة اللهم ارحمني وخلصني.
ثبت فيك أيك يوم الماضي لو كان العمر ثابتا وهذا العالم أبدا، لكن لك يا نفسي حجة واضحة. لكن إذا انكشفت أفعالك الرديئة وشرورك القبيحة أمام الديان العادل، فأي جواب تجيبين وأنت على سرير خطايا منطرحة في أخضاع جسد متهاونة؟ أيها المسيح إلهنا، لكرسي حكمك المرهوب أفزع، ولمجلس دينتك أخشع، ولنور الشعاع لاهوتك أجزع. أنا الشقي المتدنس الراكد على فراشي متهاون في حياتي، لكني أتخذ صورة العشار قريعا صادر قائلا اللهم اغفر لي فإني الخاطئ.
آمين.
أيتها العذراء الطاهرة اسبلي ذلك السريع المعون على عبدك، وابعدي أمواج الأفكار رديئة عني، وانهدي نفسي المريضة للصلاة والسهر، لأنها استغرقت في سبات عميق. فإنك يوم قادرة رحيمة معينة، والتي ينبوع الحياة، ملكي وإلهي يسوع المسيح رجائي.
تفضل يا رب أن تحفظنا في هذا اليوم بغير خطية. مبارك أنت يا رب إله أبانا، ومتزايد بركة، واسمك قدوس مملوء
مجدا إلى الأبد آمين.
آمين. فلتكن رحمتك علينا يا رب كمس اتكالنا عليك،
لأن عين الكل تترجاك،
لأنك أنت الذي تعطي طعام في حينه. اسمعنا
يا
الله
الله
مخلصنا
مخلصنا
يا رجاء
أقطار
أقطار
الأرض
الأرض
كلها.
كلها. وأنت يا رب تحفظنا وتنجينا من هذا الجيل الأبد آمين. مبارك
مبارك
أنت
أنت
يا
يا
رب
رب
علمني
علمني
عدلك.
عدلك،
مبارك أنت يا رب فهمني حقوقك. مبارك أنت يا رب أنر لي برك
يا رب رحمتك
دائما
دائمة إلى
الأبد.
الأبد.
أعمال
أعمال
يديك يا
يديك يا
رب
رب
لا
لا ترفض.
ترفضها، لأنك يا رب صرت لي ملجأ من جيل إلى جيل.
أنا
أنا
طلبت
طلبت
إلى
الرب
الرب
وقلت
قلت
ارحمني
ارحمني
وخلص
وخلص
نفسي،
نفسي
فإني
فإني
أخطأت
اتجهت.
إليك.
يا
يا
رب
رب التجأت
التجأت
إليك
إليك
فخلصني،
فخلصني
وعلمني
ونجني
أن
من
أصنع
أسوأ،
مشيئتك.
لأنك أنت هو إلهي.
وعندك ينبوع الحياة، وبنورك يا رب نعاين النور. فلتأتي رحمتك الذين يعرفونك، وبرك لمستقيم القلوب. لك تجب البركة، لك يحق التسبيح، لك ينبغي التمجيد.
أيها الآب والابن
وروح القدس الكائن منذ البدء هو الاعتراف للرب والترتيل لاسمك أيها العلي، أن يخبر رحمتك في الغدوات وحقك في كل ليلة. قدوس الله، قدوس القوي، قدوس الحي
الذي لا يموت، الذي ولد من العذراء
العذراء،
الحق.
قدوس الله، قدوس القوي، قدوس الحي.
قدوس الله، قدوس القوي، قدوس الحي الذي لا يموت، الذي قام من الأموات وصعد إلى السماوات، ارحمنا. المجد للآب والابن والروح القدس الآن وكل أوان وإلى ظهر الدهور آمين. أيها الثالوث القدوس ارحمنا، أيها الثالوث القدوس ارحمنا، أيها الثالوث القدوس ارحمنا. يا رب اغفر لنا خطايانا، يا رب اغفر لنا آثامنا، يا رب اغفر لنا زلاتنا، يا رب افتقد مرضى شعبك، اشفهم من أجل اسمك القدوس. أبائنا أخواتنا الذين رقدوا يا رب نيح نفوسهم. يا من هو بلا خطية يا رب ارحمنا، يا من بلا خطية يا رب أعنا واقبل طلباتنا إليك، لأن لك المجد والعزة والتقديس المثلث. يا رب ارحم، يا رب ارحم، يا رب بارك آمين. تقدس اسمك، ليأتي ملكوتك، لتكن مشيئتك كما في السماء كذلك على الأرض. خبزنا الذي الغد أعطنا اليوم، واغفر لنا ذنوبنا كما نغفر نحن أيضا للمذنبين إلينا، ولا تدخلنا في تجربة لكن نجنا من الشرير، بالمسيح يسوع ربنا، لأن لك الملك والقوة والمجد إلى الأبد آمين.
السلام لك، نسألك أيها القديسة المطلعة والدة الإله أم المسيح إله.
صلواتنا لابنك الحبيب ليغفر لنا خطايانا.
السلام للتي ولدت لنا نور الحقيقي المسيح إلهنا العذراء القديسة.
اسألي رب عنا ليصنع رحمة مع نفوسنا ويغفر لنا خطايانا.
أيتها العذراء مريم ولدة الإله القديسة الشفيعة على أمين الجنس البشرية، اشفعي فينا أمام المسيح الذي ولدتيه لكي ينعم علينا بخطايانا.
السلام لك أيتها العذراء الحقيقية الحقانية.
السلام والفخر جنسنا ولدت لنا عمانوئيل. نسألك
اذكرين أيتها الشفيعة المؤتمنة أمام ربنا يسوع المسيح ليغفر لنا خطايانا.
نعظمك يا أم النور الحقيقي ونمجدك أيتها العذراء القديسة والدة الإله، لأنك ولدت لنا مخلص العالم.
المجد لك يا سيدنا المسيح، فخر رسلك للشهداء، تالي الصديقين، سبعة كنائس، غفران خطايا، نبشر بثالوث القدوس لاهوت واحد، نسجد له ونمجده. يا رب ارحم، يا رب ارحم، يا رب بارك آمين.
بإله واحد الله الآب ضابط الكل، خالق السماء والأرض، ما يرى وما لا يرى. نؤمن برب واحد يسوع المسيح ابن الله الوحيد المولود من الآب قبل كل الدهور، نور من نور، إله حق من إله حق، مولود غير مخلوق، يساوي الآب في الجوهر، الذي به كان كل شيء. هذا الذي من أجلنا نحن بشر من أجل خلاصنا نزل من السماء وتجسد من الروح القدس ومن مريم العذراء، وتأنس الصلب عنا، تألم وقرب وقام من بين الأموات في اليوم الثالث كما في الكتب، وصعد إلى السماوات وجلس عن يمين أبيه، وأيضا يأتي في مجده ليدين الأحياء والأموات، الذي ليس في مكان انقضاء. نعم نؤمن بالروح القدس الرب المحيي المنبثق من الآب، نسجد له ونمجده مع الآب والابن وبكنيسة واحدة مقدسة جامعة رسولية، ونعترف بمعمودية واحدة لمغفرة الخطايا. ننتظر كلمات الأموات وحياة الدار الآتي.
آمين.
يا رب اسمعنا وارحمنا كلنا خطايانا امين. كريا لايسون كريا لايسون يا رب ارحم. كريا لايسون كريا لايسون اسمعنا وارحمنا. كريا لايسون كريا لايسون ارحمنا يا الله. كريا لايسون كريا لايسون يا رب ارحم. كريا لايسون كريا لايسون اسمعنا وارحمنا. كريا لايسون كريا لايسون ارحمنا يا الله. كريا لايسون كريا لايسون اسمعنا وارحمنا. كريا لايسون كريا لايسون كريا لايسون. قدوس 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 رب السماوات السماء والأرض مملوءتان من مجدك ورحمة. ارحمنا يا الله الآب ضابط الكل أيها الثالوث القدوس ارحمنا. يا رب إله القوات كن معنا لأنه ليس لنا مهيب في شيء. حل واغفر واصفح لنا يا الله عن سيئاتنا التي صنعناها بإرادتنا والتي صنعناها بغير إرادتنا، التي فعلناها بمعرفة والتي فعلناها بغير معرفة، خفية والظاهرة. يا رب اغفرها لنا من أجل اسمك القدوس.
قدس اسمك ليأتي ملكوتك، لتكن مشيئتك كما في السماء كذلك على الأرض. خبزنا كفافنا أعطنا اليوم، واغفر لنا ذنوبنا كما نغفر نحن أيضا للمذنبين إلينا، ولا تدخلنا في تجربة لكن نجينا من الشرير بالمسيح يسوع ربنا، لأن لك الملك والقوة والمجد إلى الأبد آمين.
رب جميع ما أخطأنا
هذا اليوم
كان فعل أو بالقول أو بالفعل أو بجميع الحوادث.
فاصفح واغفر لنا من أجل اسمك القدوس كصالح ومحب البشر، وانعم علينا اللهم بليلة سالمة وبهذا النوم طاهر من كل قلق، وارسل لنا ملاك السلامة ليحرسنا من كل شر ومن كل ضربة ومن كل تجربة العدو، بالنعمة والرأفات ومحبة البشر اللواتي لابنك الوحيد ربنا وإلهنا ومخلصنا يسوع المسيح، هذا الذي من قبله يليق بك معه المجد والكرامة والعزة مع الروح القدس المحيي المساوي لك الآن وكل أوان وإلى ظهر الدهور آمين.
يا من في كل وقت وفي كل ساعة في السماء وعلى الأرض نسجد له ومجد. المسيح لنا الصالح طويل الروح كثير الرحمة جزيل التحنن، الذي يحب الصديقين ويرحم الخطاة الذين أمنوا، الذي لا يشاء موت الخاطئ مثلما يرجع ويحيى، الداعي الكل إلى الخلاص يجمعه. اقبل منا في هذه الساعة وكل ساعة البطن، سهل حياتنا، ارشدنا للعمل بسيط، قدس أرواحنا، طهر أجسامنا، قوم أفكارنا، نقي نياتنا، اشفى أمراضنا، اغفر خطايانا، نجينا من كل حزن رديء ووجع قلب، أحيطنا بملائكتك القديسين لكي نكون بمعسكر محفوظين ومرشدين، لنصل إلى اتحاد الإيمان ولمعرفة مجدك غير المحسوس وغير المحدود، فإنك مبارك في الأبد.
تقدس اسمك ليأتي ملكوتك، تكن مشيئتك كما في السماء كذلك على الأرض. خبزنا الذي الغد أعطينا اليوم، واغفر لنا ذنوبنا كما نغفر نحن أيضا للمذنبين إلينا، ولا تدخلنا في تجربة لكن نجينا من الشرير بالمسيح يسوع ربنا، لأن لك الملك والقوة والمجد إلى الأبد آمين. فهمتك، هو ده كل الترانيم اللي فيها كلمة يا رب وكلمة اسمع وصلاة. هي جت اهي. اهي استنى، هي أول واحدة. مش هي.
أنت عايز مايك واحد صح؟ ولا عايز اتنين عشان صوتك حلو؟ عايز تستخدم الاتنين؟
الاتنين واحدة. مش هنا؟ اوكي بقول لك ايه، جرب ترن معانا. يلا تقول ايه؟ جرب تسمع صوت تاني. امسك المايك. يلا يلا يلا، مفيش حد كده فايز. هرن معانا كريم. أعظم أنجبته الكنائس يعني. عارفها طبعا. يا نهار أبيض أنا كريم. ماشي أوكي. أنت اسمها مضاعف، أكيد أنت عارفها برضه. مضاعف أنت عارفها؟
صح.
الحمد لله نشكر ربنا حبيبي. مفيش حد. إيه ده؟ طب ممكن يعني هنا مهما ضاعف أنت لك مكتوب جبار البأس. جبار؟ جبار البأس ماشي خلاص. مش مشكلة في كلمة. يعني أنا كتبت جبار البأس أحسن. لا الأبلكيشن ده مش مظبوط. مهما ضعف مش ضعف. بتفرق صدقني. مهما ضعف اكتب بس مهما ضعف مش ضعف. امسح جرب انت في الأول. تمام معاك. مش مسافر أوي.
مهما ضعف امتلكني وتسرب فيا اليأس، انت في عينيك شايفني ابنك جبار البأس.
مهما ضعف امتلكني وتصرف فيا اليأس، انت في عينيك شايفني ابنك جبار البأس.
وفاتح لي حضنك وشايل مني الخوف، وبكلمة وعد منك بهزم ربوات وألوف.
وفاتح لي حضنك وشايل الخوف، وبكلمة وعد منك هزم وتقولوا اسندني في ضعفي واسمع لي صلاتي. اللهم ارحمني انا الخاطي.
اسندني في ضعفي واسمع لي صلاتي. اللهم ارحمني أنا الخاطي. ومهما بعدنا عنك تفضل معانا، تحاول بتخلق فينا بولس ويموت جوانا شاول.
ومهما بعدنا عنك تفضل معانا، تحاول بتخلق فينا بولس ويموت جوانا شاول. ما انا زي السامرية جايلك والضعف ماليني عطشان وعايز اشرب ومفيش
غيرك يرويني.
ما انا زي السامرية جايلك والضعف ماليني عطشان وعايز اشرب ومفيش غيرك يروي.
اسندني في ضعفي واسمع لي صلاتي. اللهم ارحمني أنا الخاطي، اسندني في ضعفي واسمع لي صلاتي. اللهم ارحمني أنا الخاطي. رغم الخطية برجع بدموعي أترجاك، مستني منك أسمع مغفورة ليك خطاياك.
رغم الخطية هرجع دموعي أترجاك، مستني أسمع مغفور لك خطاياك.
أنا ابنك صنع ايديك وكلامك ليا ميراث، تفضل عيني عليك وايدي على المحراث.
صنع ايديك كلامك ليا ميراث، تفضل عيني عليك وايدي على المحراث.
اسندني في ضعفي واسمع لي صلاتي. اللهم ارحمني أنا الخاطي، اسندني في ضعفي واسمع لي صلاتي. اللهم ارحمني أنا الخاطي. يا رب اسمع صلاتي، اقبل واستجيب، تعال وزور حياتي واملاها لهيب.
يا رب اسمع صلاتي، اقبل واستجيب، تعال وزور حياتي املاها لهيب.
أنا طلبي إن أشوف المجد، أملي إن أشوفك، وحتى إن آخر باب اتسد هلمس هد بثوبك. أنا طلبي إن أشوف المجد، أملي إن أشوفك، وحتى إن آخر باب اتسد
هلمس هد بثوبك. أنا هلمس هد بثوبك.
انت شافي نفسي، انت شافي جسدي، انت شافي نفسي، انت شافي جسدي، انت طبيبي،
انت إله عظيم، انت إلهي معاك مفيش مستحيل، تحييني من مماتي. انت إله عظيم، انت إلهي معاك مفيش مستحيل، تحييني من مماتي. انت إلهي، انت إلهي، انت إلهي، انت يسوع الفادي. انت واهب الحياة، انت لي نجاة. انت واهب الحياة، انت لي نجاة. وفي ايدك ظروفي، وفي ايدك ظروفي. انت بتدي سلام، انت فيك الامان. انت بتدي سلام، انت فيك الامان. انت ماحي خوفي، انت ماحي خوفي. انا بس محتاج لصوتك، انا هدفي رضاك وخوفك. انا بس محتاج لصوتك، انا هدفي رضاك وخوفك. انا طلبي ان اشوف المجد، املي ان اشوفك. وحتى آخر باب اتسد هلمس هد بثوبك. أنا طلبي إن أشوف المجد، أملي إن أشوفك. وحتى آخر باب اتسد هلمس هد بثوبك. أنا هلمس هد بثوبك.
السلام يا جماعة، عاملين ايه؟ الحمد لله. احنا عندنا فقرة كده سريعة، هنعمل 10 minutes. ال 10 minutes دي هتبقى عبارة عن هندي instructions للناس اللي قاعدة قدام اللي هم جون وباسم، وعلى حسب الحاجات دي هم هيمثلوا عليها او مش هيمثلوا، بس هيعملوا تعبيرات بوشهم، حاجة بسيطة يعني. آم، يعني ربنا معانا بقى. هو الموقف هم 2 شباب، كل واحد عايش بطريقة معينة وعايش بستايل معين في حياته، فهنقارن ما بين الطريقتين او الحياة بتاعت الاتنين بتبقى ماشية ازاي. عندنا دانيال وعندنا ديفيد. دانيال هيبقى جون وديفيد هيبقى باسم. انت عايز دانيال؟ انت ديفيد، انت دانيال. اوكي، هنبتدي بدانيال. دانيال هنتكلم الاول هو بيبتدي يوم ازاي. دانيال بيصحى وبيتامل. انت ديفيد هو دانيال. اوكي، دانيال بيصحى بيتامل، بيشرب قهوته بهدوء، وبيقول الحمد لله على اليوم الجديد اللي احنا فيه ده. بعد كده ديفيد اول ما بيفتح عينيه بيمسك التليفون وهو لسه في السرير، بيدخل على كريبتو، بيشوف اسعار الذهب ويشوف الريت طلعت ولا نزلت. ديفيد بقى بيعمل ايه؟ بيتخض، بيمسك التليفون بسرعه بتوتر وبيخبطه. هنتكلم تاني حاجه، تاني موقف بيحصل لهم في يومهم لو هم بيكميت للشغل او كده، ايه اللي بيحصل يعني. دانيال في السكه بيستمتع، بيسمع بودكاست كويس، بيسمع ترنيمه، فهو بيكون سايق بهدوء وبيهز راسه كده وهو بيرتل. ديفيد بقى على الناحيه التانيه بيقلب في الانستجرام وهو في الزحمه، بيشوف واحد صاحبه نزل صوره لبيته الجديد والعربيه الجديده، وبيضرب كف في كف، بيقول ياه ده انا متاخر قوي. هنتكلم على 3 نقطة وسط الشغل. نتكلم عن الشغل بقى. دانيال بيقفل تليفونه، بيركز في التاسك اللي عنده، يخلص الشغل باتقان، بيكتب على هو بيكتب على اللابتوب بتركيز. هو اللابتوب ده. ديفيد بقى كل 5 دقايق بيفتح شاشه البورصه ويشوف الاسهم تحت طالعه ولا نازله، ومش عارف يركز في الشغل ومستني ضربه الحظ. يبص حواليه وبيقلب في التليفون من تحت الترابيزه كده بسرعه وتوتر. هنتكلم على رابع حاجه ممكن تحصل لهم، الطموح بتاعهم بيبقى ماشي ازاي. دانيال مركز في مجاله وبيسعى، بيطور من نفسه خطوه بخطوه، بيهز راسه برضا كده وبيشاور الحمد لله انا ماشي كويس. عندنا بقى ديفيد الناحيه التانيه، حاسس ان مجاله مش بيجيب ملايين سريعه، كل شهر عايز اللي يغير الميجر، بياخد بوت كامب جديد وعايز يغير المهنه عشان يوصل كده ويبقى ترند. ديفيد بيمسك راسه ومحتار، بيشاور يمين وشمال، مش عارف يعمل ايه. هنتكلم دلوقتي بقى على اختياراتهم لشريك حياتهم، شريكة حياتهم، سوري. دانيال بيدور على شريكة حياة بنت أصول متوافقة معاه فكريا، بنت كنيسة، بينتبهوا حياتهم سوا، بيحط ايده على قلبه كده وبيبتسم لما بيشوفها. عندنا بقى ديفيد حاطط شروط، يا اما اتجوز ملكة جمال، لازم تكون اتليست 100% بيرفكت، ولو مش كده يرفض ويبتعد. بيربع ايده كده ويبص لفوق. هنتكلم دلوقتي سادس نقطة هنتكلم عليها، التقدير المالي، لما هم how do they react when they get a check. دانيال بيجي له مرتب، يحط جزء منه في السيفنج وبيستمتع بالباقي هو وشاكر ربنا، بيمسك الشيك كده ويبتسم. ديفيد بقى بيشوف المرتب يزعل، بيحس ان هو الشركة بتستغله ولازم دلوقتي اتليست يكون يا فايس بريزيدنت يا سي او بتاع الشركة، فيبص على الشيك وبيرميه في الارض. 7 نقطة بقى هنتكلم عليها يومهم بيخلص ازاي. دانيال بيفصل التليفون وبيصلي وبينام وحاسس بسلام، بيقفل عينيه كده وبيسترخي، بيحط ايده تحت خده. ديفيد بقى على السرير بيفكر في 10 حاجات اللي محققهاش، بيجي له اوفر ثينكينج وبيرن اوت، وما بيعرفش ينام من الارق والكتاب، بيتقلب بتوتر وبيمسك دماغه بايدين الاتنين، بيمسك دماغه بايدين الاتنين. البوينت بتاعت كل اللي احنا اتكلمنا فيه ده ان ديفيد مش مشكلته ان ظروفه وحشه، هو مشكلته ان سقف توقعاته عالي جدا في الشغل والفلوس والعلاقات، اعلى بكتير من الواقع، وده اللي بيخلق الفجوه اللي بتتحول لكتاب. السلام بيجي لما بننزل توقعاتنا للارض ونمشي امناء في كل خطوه بنعملها. ودي كانت ال 10 minutes يا جماعه.
أصيله تحير عقلي تدابيره، بيقفل باب ويفتح ألف باب غيره. أصليله تحير عقلي تدابيره، بيقفل باب ويفتح ألف باب غيره. يا دوب يلمح ايديا امامه مرفوعة، بحب عجيب عليا يفيد جزيل خيره. ما بفهمهوش ساعات يمكن وبتذمر، واشوفه بعيد في وقت الضيق ومتأخر. يقول له اصبر ما تستعجلش على فرحك، ده انا بايدي بجهز لك فرح اكبر. بيبعت رحمة للسهران في ليل قاسي، ويبعت نعمة للغفلان وللناسي. بيبعت رحمة للسهران في ليل قاسي، ويبعت نعمة للغفلان وللناسي. وبيطبطب على المهموم وبيواسي، ويفتح طاقة للمسجون في أحزانه. حنين واللي ده منه أكيد عارفه، يحوط عاللي ماشي في سكته شايفه، ويصبر عاللي ماشي بعيد وبيخلفه. ويوفي العهد لو كل البشر خانوا. أروح عنده أحط الحمل وأسيبه، وأنا مرتاح مناطق في ترتيبه. أروح عنده أحط الحمل وأسيبه، وأنا مرتاح مناطق في ترتيبه. ولا يشغلني خوف من جاي وليه وازاي، واقول الخير يا رب انت اللي هتجيبه. سخية ايديه وجوه عينيه انا متشال، وفي حضوره بحس بكل راحة بال. ده ألف وعوده هيعوضني عن أتعاب سنين عدت عدت وبكرة هيبقى أحسن حال، بيبعت رحمة للسهران في للقاسي، ويبعت نعمة للغفلان وللناسي، بيبعت رحمة للسهران في للقاسي، ويبعت نعمة للغفلان وللناسي، وبيطبطب على المهموم وبيواسي، ويفتح طاقة للمسجون في أحزانه حنين، واللي داق منه أكيد عارفه، يحوط عاللي ماشي في سكته شايفه، ويصبر عاللي ماشي بعيد وبيخلفه، ويوفي العهد لو كل البشر خانوا.
Good evening. كده كويس مش كده؟ أنا عارف إن أنت مفيش حد عنده depression ولا عايز أي حد يقول أي سؤال. إحنا we received 28 مش كده question؟ فين مين؟ 28. Dr. Christine Solomon, she's my daughter. It's not like a daughter, right? I know the family a long time ago, but thank you for coming that long distance. She got stuck in the freeway. 91 was the accident there. So hopefully you will see more people. But I think to make this, lecture or this question and answer, just if we come closer, عشان نبقى closer, we can ask. She will try to answer most of the question where the center is depression, the subject that you prepare. Thank you, or welcome, Sen Abanoub. And I got you you want to be seated? You can stand. You can stand. So, شديهم كده وقولي لهم. She's gonna speak English. أي حد objecting English وممكن translation. في حد يحب يعمل translation. You are okay with some English? ها؟ عايز عربي. We will try to translate يعني in the middle. Okay. 22.
Hi guys, thank you so much for having me. My name's Christina Salema. I am a licensed psychologist, licensed marriage and family therapist. I specialize in working with the Orthodox Christian population, specifically women with anxiety. I recently got a certificate to work with women who are pregnant and postpartum. I don't know if you're familiar with the news. There's a lot of stuff going on with postpartum depression, anxiety, etc. But today we are actually going to talk about depression in a more general sense. This is not going to be like an academic lecture by any means, but I'm just going to let you know like signs, symptoms, and I reviewed the questions before I came, and so I'm going to weave them in. If by the end you feel like I didn't answer your question, please feel free to speak up. If there is something you need translated, just like time out, like raise your hand or something, or do this signal. اعملوا كده لو أبونا يترجم. You don't want me to speak in Arabic. This is going to be a disaster. Okay. Alrighty, so I've been in practice for about like 15 years or so, and there's a client that I had about 3 years ago. We're going to call her Kiki. I had to change some things so to be confidential. She is a pastor's daughter. She grew up, she served on the Legna, not Coptic. She had a career in healthcare, many friends. She's such a lovable person. This girl, you meet her, she's so bubbly, she's so sweet. If you look at her Instagram, which I didn't because I'm her therapist, but her Instagram has like all these beautiful things, you know, going to brunch with friends, vacation in Italy, you know, like playing with her nieces. It looks like she has the best life. And then, you know, I'm her therapist, so I'm talking with her about some stressors. I did her premarital counseling with her and her fiance. She did online dating, and she found a man with 2 kids and who was divorced. She married him. And fast forward to recently, she started therapy again with me come maybe last year. She got married 2 years ago. And she was telling me how depressed she was. She had so many expectations that when she got married, that would solve all of her depression, all of her loneliness, all of her sadness, all of her emptiness. What I forgot to mention is even though on Instagram she had this beautiful highlight reel, she'd go home and she'd feel empty. She'd feel bland. She wouldn't like cry in the shower, but she'd feel just like, oh, there's a text message. Oh, I don't really want to return it. Oh, a friend wants to hang out. Ugh, it's like pulling teeth. I don't really want to go. So anyway, fast forward, she got married. Actually saw her today in my office. But she is sad. She's depressed. She thought marriage would solve her problems, make her happy, and she's not happy. And not because her husband's a bad person, not because there's anything wrong with her or their marriage, but she had certain expectations that weren't fulfilled. And now she's coming to terms with not really living the life that she thought she would. I know there were a couple questions about, you know, I'm not where I want in my career. I'm not married. I'm not engaged. I'm not, you know, insert whatever it is. I didn't pass this test or whatever. That can absolutely yield itself to depression. That is not uncommon. Can a situation create depression? Yes. Can loneliness cause depression? Yes. Can marriage cause depression? Also, yes. Okay. So there's often this myth that, okay, right now I'm lonely, I'm sad, but if I wasn't lonely and sad, I'd be so happy and everything would be great. But we're going to talk about what it is that needs to happen to become depressed and what it is that needs to happen to get out of that depression as well. How are we doing with the English? Needing any Arabic so far? أي حد عايز ترجم? Okay, thank you. Remember, do your sign. We're good. Okay, so anyway, Kiki aside, we're going to revisit Kiki, talk about some of the things that we're doing with her. So I want to highlight to you that ever since, you know, so I'm not talking about social media today, but just a really quick snippet. Ever since the rise of social media, there has also been a rise in mental health symptoms of anxiety, depression. Anxiety, just so we could all be on the same page, is worry that you cannot control. Depression, we can say sadness. Okay, we're just going to try to keep it really simple. What are anxiety? Okay, sure. So depression is sadness, low, flat affect, fatigue, low energy. It's like you're kind of like in slow motion, but it's not really that. Like I could be depressed, or, you know, like I could be standing up here giving a talk and be depressed at the same time. Just because I'm delivering a conversation to you does not mean that everything within me is A-okay, fantastic. Okay, so don't fall into the trap that, oh, they look like they have it together, they must not be depressed. This is a myth. We're also going to talk about some other myths. But to talk about the difference between anxiety and depression, let me talk about depression first, and then I will do a snippet of anxiety. By the way, anxiety and depression are really good friends. Folks who are anxious have depression. Folks who are depressed have anxiety. It's not really a surprise. Alrighty, so one of the symptoms of depression is I don't find that fun anymore. You know, maybe I used to like to go play soccer with my friends on Thursday night. It's not fun for me anymore. You know, I don't really look forward to that. You know, there's a gathering after the Eid, everyone's going. I don't care. You're tired and sleeping the whole night does not fix that. You're still tired. You're kind of like, oh, tired and stressed and oh. So it's part of severe burnout. So someone asked, does burnout cause anxiety or depression? And the answer is yes, it can. And we'll talk about the effect of chronic stress on the brain and how that causes depression. Irritability or numbness. So someone who has a short fuse or asabi, that's a symptom of depression. So if you look around, you know, a lot of us are that way. And not because I'm pointing fingers, just because we are in this life like, oh my gosh, someone cut me off. I can't believe it. My day is ruined. You know, that's a normal part of life, but this stuff still happens. Numbness, you don't really feel your feelings. It doesn't mean you're sad and crying. You just don't really feel your feelings. Everything feels like effort. Like I said, responding to a text feels like, oh, so hard. Doing the dishes, oh my gosh. Even filling out a job application. I really want a job, but filling out a job application just feels so tough. So far, so good? Am I painting an appropriate picture? Okay. I want to tell you 1 in 5 adults are reported to have depression. This is a statistic. However, I am going to tell you personally, Christina's view, I disagree with this statistic because these are only people that have self-reported. Oftentimes, people don't say, hi, I'm depressed. I'm Christina, I'm depressed. People don't say that. So the statistics can be skewed. They can be inaccurate. It can actually be higher to, let's say, maybe more the 75%. Okay, or maybe let's say 80 or 90. Okay, so 4 in 5. Okay, let's just say that this is one opinion, my opinion. Don't say, oh my gosh, 80% of the population is depressed because Christina said so. No, this is my opinion. So it's not rare. This is real. And I'm not going to say, look around the room, we're all depressed, because that's just really sad and depressing in and of itself. But what I'm saying is this is real. It is not weakness. It is common. It is not because you are a bad person. It is not because your parents are bad people or you come from a bad place. Okay, so I want to reiterate that. Now, anxiety is worry that you cannot control. You may look irritable, on edge. You have a hard time sitting still, so you could be restless, like restless leg. Okay, your mind is constantly worrying, overthinking. Okay, but what if this happens? What if that happens? Okay, let me think of worst case scenario. Okay, let me now this. So you're kind of like in overdrive all the time. And sometimes that anxiety can lead to panic. Okay, where maybe you could literally be shaking. You're kind of like hypervigilant, looking around. Oh my gosh, something bad is going to happen. You know, feeling like the walls are caving in. I can't breathe. So this could lead to something called a panic attack. But we're not going to focus on that. So I want you to imagine depression is like sadness, slow. Anxiety is like, oh my gosh, like, what's happening? So that's more of anxiety. So one is like on overdrive, one is like on neutral, if you will. So where does depression come from? It was over time, it was viewed as a chemical imbalance. And I'm going to try to simplify this as easy as possible. So I want you to imagine the brain, because all this stuff is occurring in the brain, and the brain is different than the mind. We're going to talk about the mind as a tool to help with depression. But in the brain, I want you to imagine that it's like a construction zone. You generally don't want to go to a construction zone. There's debris, there's stuff in the air, you know, like trucks and stuff. And, you know, sometimes there might be a traffic light, but it's not working because it's under construction. I want you to imagine that that's depression. Okay, so if a traffic light is not working, or it's like buzzing, blinking, you're like, oh my gosh, does it work? Like, do I stop? Do I not? So you're going to be very cautious. So in a construction zone, you're going to move very slowly, correct? You're going to move very slowly. Doesn't that remind you of depression? You're moving very slowly. But the neurons in your brain are also firing slower. Okay, so there's a lot of these neurotransmitters, and I'm not a neuroscientist, and I don't expect you guys to be either, but just to make it simple, the way our brain communicates, our different neurotransmitters are talking to each other. So just think of like two little ants talking to each other, okay? Except there's an obstruction, so they can't really talk to each other anymore, so the communication is biased, so they can't really like chat and stuff. So what do? We need to create new connections, new pathways for these neurotransmitters to communicate, okay? So new neural pathways are called neuroplasticity. I promise you, this is the most sciencey I'm going to get tonight. I promise you. Neuroplasticity. This is the idea that our brains are evolving. They're constantly changing and improving. Even now, all of you, if you're listening, I don't know, you're creating new synapses. You're creating new connections, new communications in your brain. Okay, so it's really cool. Your brain can accommodate this. So folks who are depressed, sometimes the roads can be eroded, like chronic stress, for example. You're so stressed out, like think of a road that's been like worn out and you like can't really like drive there anymore because it's just so worn out. Chronic stress has that effect on the brain. So you cannot function as well. So if you say, I'm so burnt out from work, I think I'm depressed, I'd probably say, yeah, you're probably under a lot of stress. You're probably not taking care of yourself. And there's a lot going on that affects that. I want to pause here and ask, so far so good? Okay, I promise you I'm not going to get that more sciencey, okay? So things that we need to miss that we need to drop, okay? Well, you're depressed. You need to pray more. Your faith is not very strong. Okay, that could be, but it also could not be. I want to introduce you to this idea that we'll talk about problem and solution. If I have an academic problem, I need to identify an academic solution. If I have a pest problem, I need to find a pest solution. If I have a spiritual problem, I need a, you guys are so good. I know I surprised you there, but if I have a mental health problem, I need a, very good. Somehow, somewheres, the church said, oh, you have a mental health problem? That means you have a spiritual problem. No, 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 no. We did not make that connection. No, we did not make that connection. That connection does not exist for the purpose of this conversation. Okay, I'm not saying it can't happen, but I'm saying for this purpose, these are different things. Okay, a spiritual issue, you are bogged down by sin. You are having trouble with repentance, connecting with the Lord, and maintaining your faith. Does that have anything to do with anhedonia, irritability, exhaustion, needing lots of effort? It doesn't sound the same to me. Does it sound the same to any of you? But we've all heard it. You just need to pray more. Oh, you're depressed? Salli. La, Rabbina will take care of it. Yes, God will take care of it. Just like we pray before a test, God will take care of it. But guess what? You need to study. If you're not studying, you're not going to do very well, even if you pray from now until tomorrow morning. Okay? Like, you have to do your part. Even if you have depression and you want to get better, you still have to do your part. You can't just stay there like, oh my gosh, the doctor gave me the wrong medication. I can't get better. Okay, well, do something, get up and have some agency. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. So a mental health problem needs what type of solution? I need this louder, guys. Very good. Is depression a spiritual problem or a mental health problem? If there's one thing you take away, please let it be that. Okay? So I wanted to be gentle. I put in my notes, name this gently. No, I was not. So forgive me for being very firm. So it's not solved. Depression's not solved by I am going to pray tasbihah and I'm going to wake up feeling no longer depressed. Another myth that we just need to forget about and drop, struggling with depression means your faith is weak. Guess what? Struggling with depression means you're struggling with depression. Your faith is weak means your faith is weak. Okay? I'm going to say some unpopular opinions, but you guys know that there are a few people in the Bible who have taken their lives. Some of these people who, ruled. What'd you say, Abanoub? Yes, yes, you're right. And Job, and we could really go through the Bible and identify so many people who are depressed. I came across something which is very unpopular, but when Christ was praying at the Garden of Gethsemane, I don't know, I don't see the icon, but he's praying at the Garden of Gethsemane and he's saying, "Take this cup from me." In the book of Matthew, he records that the Lord was sorrowful unto death. What is that in Arabic? Oh, what does hazina mean? Sad. So Christ was sad? Oh, interesting. He had a full range of human emotions because he was human and divine? Yes. So guess what? I'm sorry? Yes. We are made in his image and likeness, right? So even if you are sorrowful unto death, guess what? Our Lord has experienced that and felt that. And it reminds me of the verse, the Lord is near to the brokenhearted. I need that translated.
الرب قريب من الرب قريب.
Well, that was a lot shorter than it was in English. Okay.
منكسر القلوب يعني القلب الحزين القلب المكسور يعني الرب قريب من القلب الحزين والقلب المكسور.
Abuna felt like he had to use more words because it's a lot in English. Okay, I'm messing with him. Forgive me, Abuna, I should probably reel it in. Okay, so one of the questions was, I also wanted to say, King David, the psalmist, if you guys read the Psalms, have you noticed like some of these themes are like, whoa, buddy, like, oh, like the guy is gonna kill me like around the corner. I don't know what to do. I'm so sad. I'm so depressed, whatever. Not whatever, but he's so sad. These are a full range of human emotions, okay? We know King Saul, how did he die? Okay, pop quiz. How did King Saul die? Yes, say it, please. He fell on his sword. How so? On purpose, by accident? It was on purpose. So if someone falls on their sword and they're no longer living, that's suicide. That's unaliving one's self. I think that's like the right way to say it these days. So and his assistant, or I don't know, what's the word? His assistant. Yeah, also did the same thing. Okay? So these things happen. Like this has been happening for all of time. So now that we're talking about it, now that we know that it's not weakness in personality, we know that it's not a spiritual issue, we recognize like, okay, we can separate it. Now let's find out how to treat it. So far, so good? Okay, I used to do this with my Sunday school kids, so forgive me with like being really elementary. I want to ask so far, like with the ease of understanding. This is like, yeah, I totally understand you. This is kind of, maybe this is, I have no idea what you're saying. Can you just go ahead and show me with your thumb? And I'm not going to judge you, I promise. Okay, thank you for that. I appreciate it. Alrighty, another myth that we need to debunk is depression only happens to people whose lives, so-so. So, oh, they're a teacher, of course they're depressed. You know, they don't really make that much money. Oh, you live in this city? Of course you're depressed. There's no one there. It's the middle of nowhere. Okay? Depression doesn't come after certain people. Okay? We'll talk about what factors may cause someone to experience depression. So we call them risk factors. And we'll also talk about protective factors, things that can protect you against depression. These protective factors are also things that are used to help you ease yourself out of depression. So far, so good? Okay, so we talked about all these myths that depression doesn't just happen to like bad people or whatever. Okay, protective factors. So these are good things. And I want you to think in your mind how many of these you guys have. Okay? And then risk factors we'll also talk about. So good social support, friends. Some of you look like you're sitting next to friends. Yeah, you don't have to raise your hand, by the way. So some of you are sitting next to friends. Protective factor, that will protect against depression. Will it eliminate depression? Will it say, oh, if I have friends, I will never have depression? No. Just think of it as like a point in the bucket of, okay, this will help. Eating nutritious foods. So do you guys know like brain healthy foods, omega-3s, like superfoods, all that stuff? There's actually like science behind it, that it does help with mood and brain. Moving our body in a way that feels good, okay? Whether it's going for a walk, dancing, doing matanyas, whatever works for you. Having purpose. What is my calling? Why am I here? There were a couple questions where the answer is we need to re-identify what our purpose is. Reacquaint. What is my purpose here? What are my values? What's important to me? How do I make decisions? Okay. So being in touch with your values, I said, so one of my values is efficiency. And I was really upset with myself because I should have taken the toll road. I had the little toll thing and I was like, oh, it's like my car doesn't say that there's like that many pockets of, and there weren't until the accident. But I should have been in touch with my values of efficiency. Why? Efficiency is usually a guiding principle in my life, okay? In addition to faith and family and friendships and all that stuff. Lifestyle habits. So are you more prone to moving your body or maybe just vegging out in front of the TV? And I'm not saying anyone who's vegging out in front of the TV is depressed. Don't misinterpret me. But if we're doing that the majority of the time versus moving our body, hanging out, seeing people, spending time with family, etc. With lifestyle habits, that's also am I drinking, smoking, etc. But that's going to be in the risk factor. The absence of substance use and alcohol is a protective factor. Okay. Good coping. I know how to deal in a situation, which is also related to psychological resilience. How does my brain manage when something bad happens? Can I bounce back or am I bogged down? Okay. And this is stuff that we can work on. If you're like, oh, I don't have that. This is something that can be worked on. Positive self-esteem, liking yourself, viewing yourself as competent. Like, oh, I can do that. If I were to tell you, go run a marathon, you're probably like, can't do that. You can. Like, it's not that you can't do that. Maybe you don't want to do that, but you can do that. Okay? Sleep, specifically, restful sleep. Okay? Whenever you go to the doctor or a therapist or whatever, your sleep is assessed. Are you eating and sleep? Like, how much do you eat? How much do you sleep? Like, don't they ask how many hours a night you sleep? Why? Because sleep is restorative. Sleep is helpful. Sleep can be healing. Right? When you recover from surgery, go on bed rest. You need to rest. Sleep, okay? So many people who experience depressive symptoms have very bad sleep. Okay? Fix your sleep. That's like honestly like one of the biggest things that you can do. Staying in the moment. I'm guilty of this, okay? This is not one of my protective factors. So I'm constantly thinking about the next thing that I have. So I'm already thinking about the clients that I have tomorrow, the appointment that I have. I'm leaving town on Friday. I'm thinking about something I need to drop off. It's so hard for me to be in the moment and live in the moment. And I'm going to give you a quick trick on how to be in the moment, and it works really, really well when you're in church. So if you find your mind wandering, or if you're not, like if your mind is spinning, I do this with a lot of clients with anxiety, and it's called the 5 senses grounding. Have any of you heard of this? Oh, yay, good. Okay, so I want you to do this with yourself right now, but you don't have to say it out loud. Otherwise, this is going to get really noisy, okay? So I want you to look around and identify 5 things you see. Any 5 things. Okay? How many of you said cross? I'm just curious. Okay. 2 people? Great. We're in a church and 2 people said cross. Okay. No one else did the activity. Okay. 4 things that are textures or surfaces. So like wood, velvet. I'm sorry? pictures. Yeah, like paint. So textures or surfaces, okay? 3 things you hear. Good job. Okay. 2 things you can smell. Thank you, sir. Okay, 1 thing you can taste. Very good. You get an A+ for participation today. So this is a grounding exercise that you could do to reclaim the moment, to be in the moment. I find myself, okay, so I had a client who was a deacon, and I told him, he's like, oh, my mind wanders off in liturgy. And I'm like, okay, like everyone's mind wanders off in liturgy. Like we need to reel it back in. And we did grounding, and he came back and he's like, oh my gosh, the grounding worked. And I'm like, yeah, it's supposed to. And he's like, oh, it's so fun to do in church because the things that I can smell and the things that I can taste. And he was like really, really excited. And you're probably like, Christina, you only work with women, but you know, I make some exceptions. I work with some men. Okay, so grounding is good. If you forget, you're like, I don't remember 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 1, you can Google it. It's like really easy to find. 2, just do any of your senses. If I say, can you hear 5 things? You're gonna be like, that's really hard to do. I agree. So just move on to the next sense. So sight, taste, sound, smell, texture, etc. Okay, so we finished protective factors, all the things that help protect against depression. Now, risk factors. Okay, this is not a comprehensive list. I also forgot to mention a disclaimer. This talk is not a substitute for therapy. Okay, cool. Family history. So if you say, oh my gosh, my family history is depressive, there's no hope for me. There's hope for you. Okay, it's a risk factor. It puts you at a disadvantage, but it's not like an end-all be-all. Okay, none of this is an end-all be-all. It's often undiagnosed in, I will say I'll say the Coptic population, okay, or Egyptian population. Does anyone know how it is generally manifested? Like if someone is depressed in our culture, and forgive me if anyone's outside of the culture, how does it manifest in our culture? Say it out loud. It's actually a little different. Magnoon? Okay, I see what you're saying. So forgive me. I didn't ask the question right, but that's how we view it. And we're going to get to that shortly, actually. So thank you for mentioning that. So people who are depressed won't go to the doctor and say, I'm depressed. An Egyptian is most likely to go to the doctor and say, I have a heart condition. Okay, different cultures have different psychosomatic complaints or issues. So you're probably like, oh my gosh, my mom has a heart condition. My dad has a heart condition. Like, oh my God, are they depressed? They could be, or they could not be. They could actually genuinely have a heart issue. But a couple things. 1, they have no idea how they're feeling. 2, they just don't think they feel good. And so they're theorizing, oh, I think it might be my heart. Okay? But someone asked in one of the questions, how do I tell if a loved one is experiencing depression? And we went over some of the symptoms a little bit earlier, and then someone also asked how we can help, and we're going to get to that shortly. Another risk factor is brain chemistry. You know, the construction site is under construction. Chronic illness or medical illness. So if I have diabetes, PMOS, MS, any of those acronyms and stuff, I am likely to develop depression. They are often comorbid. They happen together. Other risk factors, personality, not your personality, but personality traits, like negativity. Do you guys know, like, do you guys ever have negative people in your life? You're like, oh my gosh, I can't even talk to you. You're so negative. Like everything, you only talk about the bad. And oh my gosh, I went to the cashier and she didn't even look at me. And I went to the buffet and all the food was bad and the cruise sucked. And did you see the people on the cruise? The customer service was, and you're like, can you say anything positive? Like those people are just so difficult to be around. Please don't be one. Okay. So do a self-inventory. Am I negative? Am I critical? Or can I actually name things that are positive and happy in my life? Okay, I can still be depressed and have positive things happen in my life. Did I get you guys? Good? Okay. Negative. So we talk about negativity, being critical, negative thoughts, just constantly seeing the negative, like, oh my gosh, there's a stain on the carpet, which there's not, Abuna. The carpet is actually impeccable. But like, I'm looking for flaws constantly. Or negative thoughts like, oh my gosh, all of these people are staring at me and I'm probably doing a terrible job. Like, that's an automatic negative thought. Low self-esteem. I don't see myself as competent, capable. And previous mental health history. So if I was anxious, depressed, had trauma in my past, trauma is a bad, scary, or confusing event that is unwanted. Those things can happen, and that can be a risk factor for depression. Stressful life events. A death, a diagnosis. No, I'm not talking about like cancer diagnosis type thing. Financial trouble, burnout at work, loneliness, substance use, immigration, lack of social support. This is not a comprehensive list, but I hope I gave you an idea of what things are protective factors, what things are risk factors. I'm going to talk a little bit about trauma because this actually happens a lot in our community and very few people talk about it, though I feel like with the rise of social media, people have been talking about some trauma in the church. And not just in the church, but also in our homes and families. And I'm going to admit something to you. So when I was a new therapist back in 2010, I was not confident, but I showed up to work anyway, and I counseled my clients. And I had this woman come, and she was from Egypt, and it was only in Arabic. And as you know, from the 2 minutes that you've met me, my Arabic is not very good. But she was telling me, she's like, oh, أنا جاية عشان بنتي 15 وهي أبوها ضربني. And I was like, what? Okay. ورمي, how do you say plate? رمى طبق في وشها. في وشي. And I was like, okay, like I know my Arabic is bad, but like you're telling me that he hits you and there's a plate that got thrown at your face? She goes, Aywa. I'm like, oh. And then I go home that day and I'm like, hey, mom and dad, did you know domestic violence happens in Egyptian families? And they looked at me like, are you dumb? Like, were you just born yesterday? I was so sheltered that I had no idea. I thought we were better than that. I thought we knew. I thought we were Christian and we love the Lord and we treat other people with respect. You guys, my mind was shook. My mind was shook. And I remember being like, oh my gosh, I have so much to learn in this profession and in life, apparently. So I say this because these are different types of trauma that we may not realize other people are experiencing and going through, okay? A car accident can be a trauma. Moving can be a trauma. Not being accepted by your family for any circumstance can be a trauma. Losing a friend to suicide can be a trauma. The list goes on. Okay, being in an earthquake can be a trauma. So far, so good, even though that was kind of depressing. Okay, so far, so good. Alrighty. So let's talk about what specifically might be happening with you beautiful young people. And I say young people because you're like half my age. Not that I'm the old people, but you got it. Okay, so what happens to us that might create some depression? So how many of you have a LinkedIn? Or maybe I'm too old and I'm the only one with a LinkedIn. Okay, cool, thank you. Career comparison anxiety. This person got a promotion. This person matched into the medical school that I wanted to go to and didn't get into. Everyone's further along than me. Oh, that person, I know that engineer makes a lot of money. Okay? Career comparison anxiety can cause depression. Just letting you know. Loneliness. Different factors of loneliness. Could be moving out for college. It could be moving from a country that you felt very close to. Could be moving for work. I don't know why I'm talking so much about moving, but loneliness can happen in any of these circumstances. A friend moves away, I start a new job and I don't know anyone there. I have to pray at another church because now I go to a different school. I'm not in a relationship and other people are. I don't think I have very many friends, and a lot of people do. I have no one I can travel with or go to that concert to. That is not really having a community or hometown. This is something very common among this age. Financial pressure. I should be earning money. I have a client who is an ER physician, and how many of you think an ER physician makes good money? Okay, yeah, a lot of you should be raising your hands because they do. She is concerned that she doesn't make enough money because she has student debt to pay, she doesn't have a house, and she's comparing herself to everyone else her age. I'm not married and I barely can make ends meet. So she's judging herself so much for not being able to provide financially. Financial pressures can come from student debt, rent, expectations between adulting and reality, travel, etc. Okay, burnout worn as a badge of honor. How many of you here like, oh my gosh, I only got 2 hours of sleep last night? And they say it like, you should like say like, oh my gosh, how are you functioning? Did you get a venti from Starbucks? And it's not a badge of honor, but we often say like, we have to kind of like out bad the other. Like, oh, this is going bad in my life. Oh, this is actually going worse in my life. Oh, you lost one friend, I lost two. Oh, your church has only one youth meeting. Well, mine doesn't have any. So you're constantly comparing, but like you're kind of like saying like burnout, like I'm so burnt out, I'm better than you, or I'm better off than you, or worse off, forgive me. Identity. So when your job becomes your whole identity and you don't really know much out of that. So I'm an engineer. Okay, so this kind of drives me nuts about the Egyptian community. So when you see an engineer, what do you say? Besh Mohendes. Okay. It drives me nuts that like you have to address someone by like what they are. They're like, oh, Dr. So-and-so. So I tell my clients like, don't call me doctor. I don't need that. Like, it doesn't matter. Those are just means I went to a lot of school. So they say Besh Mohendes. There's so much emphasis on someone's career, and that becomes their all-consuming identity. Like my dad is a doctor. He was a pediatrician a long time ago, and now he's retired. But people still call him like, how's doctor? And I'm like, oh, like, how's your dad? How's Naeem? How's like anything? But like that has now become his all-consuming identity. But guess what? He's retired. He's not a doctor anymore. So what are you going to call him? You know? So anyway, Mr. Naeem, oh my gosh, that would be funny. I'm going to call him that tomorrow. Yes, oh my gosh. Okay, I have to say this. So thank you for saying it. My mom calls herself Dakatra because my siblings and we're all whatever, have a doctor title or something. So it drives me nuts because that becomes their all-consuming identity. But you guys are so much more than your career. You are first and foremost a daughter of the Most High King, a son of God. This is your identity. I want you to embrace this identity. Okay? I don't care. Christina, disclaimer, don't care if you're a doctor, pharmacist, teacher, janitor. I don't care. You showed up tonight and we are all equal here. We are all his sons and daughters. So I really want to just make that clear, because when we don't have the title Besh Mohendes or whatever else people have, we feel, okay, there's a crisis, there's a problem within me. I am inadequate. I am not good enough. Who says that? Just because you don't have Besh Mohendes doesn't mean you're not good enough. Like the two are not related. Just like a mental health problem and a spiritual problem are not related. So I want to emphasize that. And I really, really hope that moving forward, we can break some of these patterns instead of just addressing people this way. So forgive me, this is my rant. I'm going to continue talking about depression. Another thing, church servant. You have the pressure to appear strong and holy and have it all together. And you could be struggling on the inside. Okay, I know one of the common struggles in this age is I'm not married, I'm not engaged, and it doesn't look like anyone wants to marry or engage me. Ever. Okay? So we have all these silent struggles that are going on, and I want to normalize it. I want to tell you, you are not awkward, you are not bad, you are not corrupt, you are not sinful because you have these feelings. These feelings happen. Okay? I want to just clear the air with that. Okay? You're not a bad person. This doesn't define you. Okay. How are we on time? Good, bad? Okay, cool. I'm going to skip a couple things so I could get to your questions. Okay. I want to counter the myth. Seeking therapy and being on medication does not mean you're giving up on God. Okay? God created us in his likeness and image. He gave us tools and resources that we can use. Therapy and medication are resources that we can use. There were a couple questions of like, oh, what if I go to a therapist and they say this is not their spirituality, or they tell me to just try? There are therapists that are not that great, I will admit. And there are therapists that are excellent at what they do. I won't tell you which one I am. But go, if you feel so inclined, I will tell you how to find a therapist. But I encourage you not to give up, but also know the ball is in your court. Don't expect someone to come do the work for you. Okay? I know in depression it can be very hard, so we're going to break it into small steps. So for example, if tonight I'm like, okay, like I think I might be depressed, I should probably maybe look for a therapist or start with a book she's talking about. Break it into small steps. Okay? If I need to find a therapist, you're like, I don't even know where to start. I will give you some steps guidelines, but break everything into small steps. If it feels too overwhelming, make it 5 steps. Okay? If my room's a mess, just start with 5 things. I'm going to pick up the cups. I'm going to pick up the clothes. I'm going to put the toothpaste cap on, all that. Small steps. Whenever we see something huge, we're overwhelmed and we say, I can't do that. Go back to sleep. If I tell you, go run a marathon, you're like, ugh. You're going to start with taking 2 steps. That's a starting point. Okay? We can all start somewhere. Is that clear? Okay. So God works through doctors, therapists, medicine, the same way he works through prayer and community. They're not competing, but they work together. It's not I either pray or go on medication. I pray and go on medication. So it's not or, it's and. If I want to also highlight, if you're thinking about talking with someone, a therapist, I want to let you know that is not failure. You didn't fail at life. This is wisdom. You recognize, I don't like the way I'm feeling. There is a possibility I can feel better. I'm going to give it a try. That is wisdom. That is not failure. I will venture to say that it's failure if you recognize you have a problem and you do nothing about it. Okay? Forgive me, I'm kind of intense. I should have told you guys that. But are we good? I love all of you, okay? Just so you know. Alrighty, so faith and prayer are a tool. It can promote resiliency and act as a protective factors. So I'm just gonna skip my notes and go to some of the questions and then talk about some resources. Oh, by the way, Kiki, we are working through the grieving process, the Kiki from earlier in the talk. So we're working on grieving her expectations. So there was a mismatch in her expectation of marriage and the reality of marriage. There was an expectation that she would be an involved and fun stepmother. Her stepsons don't want to have anything to do with her. And I promise you, she's like the sweetest woman. She's like so sweet. So there is grief, there is coming to terms, there is accepting. So there are tools. You may not like the outcome, but these are the options to heal, in addition to other things. So I'm telling you, you don't have to feel horrible, okay? Even if you're in a horrible situation. Okay, her marriage is not horrible by any means at this time. Alrighty, so I'm going to go into the question. What if your partner criticizes you for having depression? I have a lot of feelings about this question. Two things. One, does your partner actually know what depression is? If they had an accurate understanding of what depression is, a partner who does not have red flags should show up as supportive and say, wow, it sounds like you're going through a tough time and you're having a hard time doing XYZ. Can I help you get some help? If your partner criticizes you for having depression, clarify if they know what depression is. If they do know what depression is and they criticize you, that is a red flag. Red flags are bad. You do not want to be in a relationship with someone who displays red flags that obviously. Okay? This will also be an indicator of the future. What else are they not going to support you with? What else will they criticize you for? Is that clear? Is that clear? Okay. Why are some people ashamed to go to therapy? And then you said the Magnoon comment, which I appreciate. Culturally, if we were to look at 1940s, 50s in Egypt, there was only like one understanding of al-nafs and psychology. And it is, you are like schizophrenic, psychotic, you live in an alternate reality, not this one, and you are in a psych ward. Okay? These are people who seek services. You've got to be off the rails to seek services. Okay? This is why people might be ashamed to go to therapy. So 1, cultural stigma. 2, admitting they have a problem. Has anyone ever met an Egyptian who has a problem or has ever not admitted they have a problem or admitted they have a problem? So you guys understand what I'm getting at. We don't like to admit that we have problems, but I would say it is a sin if you don't examine yourself to see what are my problems, where are the areas that I can grow. Christ works in this. If I live in denial, I am denying the work of the Holy Spirit in my life. So invite that introspection, and guess what? You will actually feel better. Win-win. It's seen as extreme mental illness, but when it really doesn't have to look that dramatic. Remember, I said I could have depression, but it doesn't show. So it doesn't have to have a dramatic, like, oh my gosh, I'm psychotic, I'm hearing voices. People are afraid of being vulnerable. They're afraid they're going to be judged or misperceived. And they actually have to do the work to change. Some people don't like to work. Some people don't want to change. As a therapist, I cannot change them. Just like Christ works in us, we have to invite him into our lives to work within us, to reign in us, to make us whole. But that's on us. So all of us here have an accountability to ourselves. Okay, so that's why some people might feel ashamed to go to therapy. I'm sure there are other reasons. Once again, these are not comprehensive. This is just what I could come up with between the time I saw the questions and now. How does one break free from learned helplessness, whether in spiritual life or any other aspect of their lives? So learned helplessness is basically this idea that I have become accustomed to recognizing things don't go my way or I cannot get out of an uncomfortable situation. So it started with this guy, Martin Seligman. He's a researcher. And there were dogs. Forgive me, this is sciencey, okay? If you're not into science, like, tune out. There were groups of dogs, 3 groups. There was one group of dogs in a cage, and they got a shock, but then the gate opened and they could run out. Okay, so they learned, oh, I could run out and I could avoid that. The next group of dogs received a shock and there was like a little like button that you can press. They realized that the button they press opens the gate and get out. So the shock happens, they press the button and they go out. The third group of dogs were put into a cage with a button that doesn't work. They get a shock and they're trying things, and eventually they stop trying. They're not trying anymore. So now all the dogs are put into one big cage, but it's not really like super closed off. Like it doesn't have a gate, but you could jump over. The dogs who had access to the gate that opened and the button jumped over. The ones that didn't stayed there and didn't move. So that's the best way to illustrate what learned helplessness is. They learned to be helpless, even though later there was a clear solution and people around them, dogs around them, could pursue that solution. Okay, I know this was a little sciencey, but did you guys catch that? And those who tuned out, you can tune back in. So how does one break free from learned helplessness? One, recognize the patterns that led you to believe that you are helpless. Okay? What was the shock? What kept you from being able to go out of the cage? So try to create a parallel with that. Recognize that you can regain your agency. You don't have to be helpless. And some people have internalized this feeling of helplessness and made it part of their identity. Well, I'm helpless. Things don't go my way. I've tried. She won't date me. I didn't get that job. And so they spiral into negativity. But you have to realize that you got to get some spark to move forward, get out of this learned helplessness. Recognize that it's not a pattern that has to keep repeating itself. And then I want you to ask yourself, do you have the knowledge and skills to execute what you need? Can you overcome or forgive the cause of the learned helplessness? This is a very specific question, so I can't speak more specifically because I only know the question and not details. Can burnout cause depression? What's the answer? Very good, all of you, A+. How do you overcome it when it comes from constantly worrying about becoming financially stable? So this one has a couple of risk factors in it, right? Yeah, so this person who wrote this question might have an idea of what it might feel like to be depressed. And they said time off only helps for a few days. I agree, time off only helps for a few days, if that. So you can't cure burnout or depression from a few days off of work. That's one thing. Two, there are a few factors contributing: burnout, depression, financial stress, others. This takes time and energy away from you being able to engage and access your protective factors. So if you're burnt out at work and you're like so bogged down with like putting so much pressure on yourself to provide financially for whatever reason, maybe because we live in Southern California and it's very expensive, in addition to other things, this takes away time from you connecting with others, from showing up, from getting good sleep, from taking care of yourself, eating nutritious foods. You're probably grabbing McDonald's on the way home because you're so burnt out you can't even think about what to make, or you don't even want to see anyone at home. You just want to go to your room and watch TV. So it's engaging in this cycle that's keeping you from being able to get out of that depression. So like exploring different opportunities is really what it is. Like there's no like, oh, go to therapy, you'll feel better. No, it's like we need to access these protective factors. Like we need to actually be intentional. Get in touch with your priorities. So your priority for this phase of life might be to provide financially. I just need to work 3 jobs right now so I can save up for a house. Okay? But you have to understand, be in touch with what are my short-term goals, what are my long-term goals, what are my values. Is my value work? Okay, then find purpose and meaning in your work. Is my value to spend as much time with family? Okay, then create that for yourself. So sometimes it does take an evaluation of, oh, I actually like need to evaluate my life, what's taking up my time, and I might actually have to apply for another job. I might need to quit this job. I might need to move to another state. So think outside the box here. Like these things will all contribute to that. Also, maybe setting different boundaries with work. And and exploring realistic options. So I say boundaries, and that can be a whole topic in and of itself. But maybe instead of going to work at 7 a.m. and leaving at 8 p.m., you have a hard stop at 5. Oh, but I can't do that. Okay, well, you're in a toxic work environment. Okay, and explore that, unless it's a project and short term, etc. Can being single and lonely for a long time cause depression? Absolutely. Big yes. Can marriage cause depression? Also big yes. I know, sounds depressing, right? Like, oh, I thought getting married would solve all my problems. No, it might create more, actually. Don't believe me, ask Abuna. He knows better than I do. Okay. So I'm trying to find the right partner, but it's hard and it's starting to affect my work. So yes, loneliness is a major factor causing depression, and it's not cured by marriage, like we just talked about. So instead, if you're lonely now, by the way, you're going to be lonely in marriage. Like, you're just a lonely person. You need to find something to give you meaning and purpose, whether it's a hobby, volunteering, another job, reading books, going swimming, doing whatever, go to church, pick up a service, feed the homeless. You need to find meaning and purpose. You can't just say, I'm not married, I'm lonely, that's the problem. They're like separate. I'm lonely, okay. I'm single, okay. Not everyone who's single is lonely. Not everyone who's lonely is single. I want that to be very clear. Is that very clear? Okay. So if it's starting to affect your work, we need to take an inventory. We need to pause. What is taking up my time? What is taking up my energy? And what am I going to do to work on my loneliness? Because guess what? You're not helpless. You guys can actually do things to change the neural pathways in your brain. And that is how you can work in getting out of depression. It's just easier to work on it with a therapist, but you can absolutely do it yourself. I'm not saying you have to pay a lot of money to get better, okay? I don't want that to be a barrier. What are healthy ways to manage feelings of depression or discouragement when we feel behind in school, work, or life compared to where we are expected to be? That was also a question in Arabic, which is, I believe that everything comes in its own time, but I'm still depressed because I'm not doing anything in my life and I'm behind in everything, whether it's studies, work, or relationships. Yeah, that can happen. So there's clearly here a mismatch between expectation and reality. So you need to recalibrate it. What's recalibrate in Arabic? Say it louder. To recalibrate? Tawazun? Balance? Okay, you need to like reevaluate to make sure the thermometer still works. Does that make sense? Like, you need to see like, okay, these were my goals 5 years ago. I need to now evaluate. Are these still my goals? Okay, I wanted to be married by 25. Guess what? I'm 27. What am I going to do? Well, I missed the deadline. I guess I'm just going to be depressed and lonely. One, don't create a deadline for God. Because I was supposed to get married at 25 and I got married at 34. He didn't get the memo. But the point is, you don't put God on a timeline, but also don't put yourself on a timeline. Okay? So have goals, yes, but don't say I have to be, like I have people that come in like, okay, I have to be married by this, I have to have kids by this, I have to do this by this. So say like, where's your faith? What are you surrendering to God if you're taking care of everything? But the opposite is also true. If you miss that deadline, if you're not creating the expectations that you want, create different expectations. Your expectations are not appropriate for the time if you're not meeting them. Okay? If I'm 200 pounds and I want to weigh 150, and I was supposed to weigh 150 2 years ago, maybe I should create a different goal? Let's try 195 first. You know? Like, do you guys see what I'm saying? Create small, doable goals in the beginning. Reevaluate your expectations. Healthy ways to cope with this. Grieve the timeline you created for yourself. You can be sad that you're not married at 25. You can be sad that you didn't graduate or pass the test that you thought you would. Tune into the journey. We often are building character through these experiences. When there's a mismatch and we're upset with God, God, you did not answer my prayer, this is an opportunity for your character to be created. Who am I relying on? Who am I looking towards? Who am I going to when I have a problem? This is an opportunity for you to build your faith. Okay, so it's character development as well. And ultimately, acceptance. Like, I need to accept that I did not reach what I wanted to reach, but I can still reach things. You know, maybe I didn't get into med school, but I can go to vet school. Maybe I didn't get my teaching credential, but I could be a student aide. You know, there are different things. We have to also be flexible with this. We can't just be, you know, like super stubborn with that. Do you not get depressed being a psychologist? Do people's stories or lives stay with you and affect you too? I can be depressed outside of being a psychologist because I'm human, just like you. But I'm not immune. I hear like sad stories all the time. I also hear happy stories. You know, people come and talk about their lives, which are not all bad. I'm human. I'm affected. I'm also empathetic and say, "Oh my gosh, that is really hard." You know, that sucks, you know, essentially. But I can have empathy, but I'm not like going home thinking about like, "Oh my gosh, this client is like in a bad marriage. Like, what am I going to do to solve it? Ugh, this makes me depressed." It's not like that. I also feel like being a psychologist is a calling, and I think the Lord gives me what I call Abuna memory, because you know how like Abuna is supposed to forget after you confess and repent. I have Abuna memory because sometimes a client will say something and I walk out the door and I don't even think about work until I go to the office again the next day. So I think God gives you a gift to protect you when you're in this profession. But yes, it can affect me. I also feel very fortunate that I'm invited into vulnerable spaces. I'm very grateful to that. I don't take that for granted. And so I try to protect them. And I think part of protecting them and holding that space is protecting myself as well. Okay, so these are some of the questions in Arabic. I used Google Translate, so I don't know if it's like all accurate, but I'm gonna read the question in English. How can I get rid of depression, especially when there are always good things around me in my life and I'm not happy? This is a very specific question. This person's a good candidate for therapy. We talked about some protective factors. So the first thing I would say is take an inventory of your protective factors and your risk factors. Eliminate the risk factors and increase the protective factors. If you're like, Christina, I don't have a list of this, Google it. Okay, just say protective factors for depression, risk factors for depression. Cool? Like, I don't mean to oversimplify it, but it's like accessible. Okay. Okay. There are two questions that are very similar. Is depression a chronic disease? If it's chronic, would it be better to take medication until life ends? Another question, is depression really treated? Do specialists understand what a depressed person feels? All what happens is I'm told to try, and it's like, or this is not my specialty, and it's hard. So, one, depression is treatable. Okay? Is depression treatable? Yes. If it's mild depression, it's not affecting your work too much or your life. Mild depression, you can go to therapy. Okay? That's helpful. Moderate to severe depression, and I'll tell you how you can tell the difference. Moderate to severe, the choice recommendation, choice treatment is therapy and medication together. Once again, we're not nixing prayer and spiritual life. That's still happening in the background because these are two separate things. We're praying, we're going to church, we're taking communion, repenting, confessing, and we're going to therapy and taking medication. The two can happen at the same time, or 3 or 4, whatever. So if you are mismatched with a provider, find another provider that you can connect with. So I don't know if any of you date, but it's kind of like dating. Have you ever been on a date and you're like, not for me? I hope it happens, okay? In case it hasn't, or in case you don't want to admit it, okay? That can happen with a therapist too. Or have you ever been to a doctor and you're like, they didn't even hear me? Or the dentist was like, not good bedside manner, okay? That can happen with a therapist too. Find a better therapist, okay? It might take sometimes. I'm a therapist and I try to find a therapist and sometimes I'm like, bro, you're eating cereal during our session. This actually happened. Another therapist made coffee during this session. Another one took the phone call from the car. You guys, I'm a therapist and I've witnessed this firsthand. Okay? I'm not saying that I'm not that kind of therapist, but not all therapists are like that, okay? And if someone's just telling you to try, that's like inappropriate. That one, I'm sorry if that's happening. Two, let's also break things into small steps. What are they asking you to try? Okay? Alrighty. Okay, there was another one. If there is depression due to the loss of a mother and lack of true love from the rest of the family members and the presence of severe loneliness, is there any recovery from these feelings or not? Yes, there is possibility of recovery. I feel like I'm not happy in my life, and every time I want something to deliver, I imagine that it will change my life and I will always be happy. It will be simple just a little bit and I will get upset again. So once again, that was the Google Translate for these questions in Arabic. So do you guys see the themes here? I'm trying, it's not working out, I'm upset. Like, just to simplify it. Okay? It's okay in this situation, if you've tried and it didn't work, it's okay to now take the next step and reach out for help. Oftentimes in our community, people like to visit the lovely Abunas, who, poor guys, let's be real, they're getting calls at 2 a.m. Abuna, should I get the red car or the blue car? Asla red is the carpet in the church, I need it. What? Like, Abuna doesn't care about the color of your car. That's not going to determine your salvation. Okay? But the difference between being depressed and not can contribute to that. If, like, the number one hallmark symptom of depression is hopelessness. If I lose hope, I'm losing it. Okay? So that can, in fact, impact your spiritual life. This is now the intersection between psychology and spirituality, mental health and spirituality. If you are down that road, it is okay to reach out to people besides Abuna. Is that okay? Okay. So it's okay. I want to mention that. It's okay to be on medication. But you have to, once again, take that self-inventory. And there is hope. If someone commits suicide because of pain from depression, will they go to the fire because they are a good person and who loves God? I feel like answering this borders on judgment, so I cannot answer where they will go. However, I know that we have a merciful God and we have a righteous God. I know that. Personal opinion. Backed by biblical fact. Okay, so I don't know. I can't answer that. But if someone is feeling, I think one of the questions is like, what do I feel? What do I have? What happens if I have chronic suicidal ideation? Do not keep it to yourself. Okay? You need to invite others into this. Not so you could scare them, not so that you could push them away, but so that you could get help, but get the right help. Okay? One easy hotline is 988. You could text 988, call 988, 988. You know, like 911? 988. Okay? National helpline for suicidal experiences, feelings, etc. Okay? There is hope, there is healing. At times, it could be situational. At times, oftentimes, people feel like this is my only option to end my life. Okay? There are options. Life is hard, but we don't need to end it. Okay? Life is hard. We can navigate it. Okay, it is doable. I want to instill that hope in you, and Christ wants that for you. Okay, we want to live as close to Him here on this earth so that when we are in the rest of eternity, we're hanging out, praising and worshiping the Lord. Okay, so we want to get in touch with that now. So once again, I'm intersecting mental health and spirituality. When a person feels empty, even if nothing happens in their life, nothing bad happens in their life, I think that's a lack of connection to their values, calling, and purpose. So reacquaint yourself with, I feel empty. What do I need to do to be fulfilled? Usually doing something for something else is the quickest way to be fulfilled, which is service. Okay? If you're not sure in what capacity you can serve, there are a couple people at church. You could go to your Amin al-Khidma or Abanoub. He's dressed here in black. You can find him. He's wearing a cross. But maybe reach him in the morning, not at night. Okay. How can I get through this stage where I've reached a point of depression due to criticism from my family or a failed relationship? The first word that comes to mind here is boundaries. So if you are receiving so much criticism from your family, what mental boundaries are you putting in place? Are you just receiving all the criticism? This kind of reminds me of learned helplessness. Like, are you just sitting there and like people are throwing eggs at you and you're taking it? Find shelter. You know, like you might need to limit a relationship with someone who is criticizing you so much. And sometimes even you might need to move out. You know, you need to protect yourself. Okay, this is your mind, this is your life. There are options. Okay. Also, maybe, failed relationship, maybe accepting that. I call failed relationships sometimes successful relationships because you realize that it didn't work out and that is a success. Okay? It's okay if a relationship doesn't work out. I'd rather it not work out now than when you have rings on and you have to take them off. And that affects like so many people. So just like if there's a bad relationship, end it now, and that is a success. Okay, I want that to be clear. Even if you're engaged and it's like 2 days before your wedding, it's okay. Okay, there were a couple other questions that weren't super related to depression, so I wanted to make sure I got all the depression questions first. Are you guys keeping an eye on questions at all to see? Okay. How does the brain function? Can you go to the serotonin one? Okay. How does the brain function with less serotonin? Go, if you scroll down a little bit. Yeah. How does the brain function during depression with less serotonin? It's not necessarily less serotonin. It is neurons that are not firing as effectively. So remember the construction site I told you about, and things are kind of moving a little bit slower? That's how the brain is functioning. It is functioning slower. Okay? So medication can sometimes help clear the debris, build new communication pathways, new traffic signals and roads, and you start to feel better. Your brain starts firing, the neurons start firing how they're supposed to be, okay? How do I deal with depression that I get from a long-distance relationship? Engaging in protective factors that we talked about. So finding meaning and purpose outside of the relationship. Long-distance relationships are hard, but if this is a relationship worth pursuing, you will find a purpose and meaning outside of the relationship. A relationship should never define you, and you should never be everything that your partner needs to be and only be what your partner needs to be. You need to be your own individual, even in your marriage. Okay, I feel like I'm intersecting to another area. But let me go over the protective factors again, because I keep referencing it, and I think that might be helpful. Social support, eating nutritious foods, moving your body, having purpose, being in touch with your values, lifestyle habits, psychological resilience, good coping, positive self-esteem, sleep, staying in the moment. It feels hard to seek help for depression when it can affect insurance eligibility or rates. How can we get help while protecting ourselves from those risks? So actually, insurance, yes, can be prohibitive from finding, can you, sorry, keep it there. I want to make sure I answer all of it. So usually, like a couple things. I will give you a practice name. It's called Brain Health USA. They have Arabic-speaking therapists and psychiatrists. Okay, Brain Health USA. And if you guys have a group chat, I'll send you some resources. You guys have a group chat? Okay, I'll send it to Buna and he can figure it out with you guys. So it shouldn't affect eligibility. Like, remember we said 1 in 5, but in reality, it's closer to like 80% that actually have mental health circumstances. So it should not affect eligibility. However, yes, if you go to a private therapist who specializes in a certain thing, it can be expensive. I agree with you. I agree. Let's just name that. However, oftentimes, if you have a major PPO, you're paying your copay, $15, $30. I believe that's reasonable to see someone. If it is prohibitive, there are typically people who can offer a sliding scale. Don't expect pro bono, don't expect free, don't expect Abuna to be your therapist. He's got too much to deal with on his own. Not just this one, all of them. Give them a break. Even if they're trained, even if they have the Holy Spirit, okay? There are people who have literally devoted their lives to this, specialized training, etc. So I hope I answered that. So Brain Health USA also, I believe, takes Medi-Cal. There's something called Open Path Collective. They have sliding scale therapists, Psychology Today, and there's something called Coptic Pathways. Coptic therapists are on there, but they're all sorts of different prices. Okay, so you could reach out to someone you feel. If you want to invest, it could be 150 plus, maybe up to 300 if you want to invest. And I say invest because each session moves you forward to a better life and you can get better faster, in my opinion. So I don't think there's necessarily a risk. I don't know if there's a different word we can use there. What do I do if depression became my comfort zone? Yeah, that sounds like it's erring on the side of hopelessness and that we don't want to do anything. So I would challenge this person to consider, do they want to be undepressed? If you don't want to be undepressed, then sure, stay in your comfort zone. But can we create a new comfort zone where depression is not the main character? Chances are yes. We might need to explore that. It might be uncomfortable. And that's okay. Because we need to look at the long term versus the short term. Short term, it's going to be a little uncomfortable. Long term, it's better for you, your relationships, your family, your children, if you decide to have them. Oh, there was a question about childless. Can you go to the childless? Like, am I depressed, childless? Can ADHD medications lead to depression? Was a quick question. I'll answer that before. Not necessarily. I would encourage you to talk to your prescriber if you're experiencing that. And there might be a comorbidity. So there might be depression that's also occurring while the ADHD is occurring, although ADHD and anxiety are more likely to occur together. I think it was in English. Sorry, I don't have the phone to help. Is there a relationship between having depression and deciding to be child-free because you don't want to bring another human to suffer in this world? This is a common thing now. A lot of people are called childless by choice because they don't want to bring a human into the world. One of the main arguments, counter arguments, is what if you were to bring good humans in this world? Fikra, you know? But also, I didn't answer the question yet. There's not necessarily a relationship between having depression and deciding to be child-free. That is just an awareness. It's an awareness that you have that you desire to be child-free. It is generally not accepted within the Orthodox faith to have that thought process, but that is, I'm not judging, I'm just sharing. Okay? And we also don't want to deny the work of the Holy Spirit and the power of prayer to help us in this world that seems kind of collapsing at times. What do you do if you have suicidal ideation, even with medications, and nothing helps? So this could be two things. One, if you have suicidal ideation and you're on medication and nothing helps, this could be something called treatment-resistant depression. That means you have tried treatment and you are not responding to treatment. This happens to a small part of the population, but it happens nonetheless. And there are at least two very common things that, have you guys heard of ECT, electroconvulsive therapy? There's also transcranial magnetic stimulation. These are two interventions that basically like shock the brain. It's like it quickly cleans up the construction site. That's like the best way I can explain it. Quickly cleans up the construction site and helps you feel better faster. And this is the choice treatment for treatment-resistant depression. Depression has harmed my relationships and friendship. I'm sorry. How can I overcome that and start making friends? What'd you say? Start? Just try? Just do it? No. Wait, can you go back? Yeah, that's tough. So you know how I was saying earlier, can you leave it here? Sorry for a second. You know how I said, like, you know, that negative person that like no one wants to be around? Take an inventory and see what type of friend you are. How do you show up in relationships? Are you a person that people desire to be around? This person maybe has pushed some people away. Wait, go back. Okay. The way to overcome it, take an inventory. And in this case, I would say seek therapy. Get additional support. I want you to think of the word therapy or going to therapy as support. I am pursuing support. I am going to get support. I go to the dentist to support my teeth. I go to the primary care physician to support my body. I go to the therapist to support my mind. Support. Okay? So I would go that, because oftentimes there are patterns that are happening in these relationships that we cannot see from our perspective. But oftentimes talking to someone else and being honest with them, they can identify patterns and then suggest and role play with you different ways of doing life so that you don't engage in those same harmful, destructive patterns. I answered that one. I answered that. Answered that. Answered. Oh, how do you make yourself more confident since it's a mind game? You're right, it is a mind game. So the choice treatment actually is called CBT. Have you guys heard of CBT? It's cognitive behavioral therapy. It's basically the bread and butter of every therapist. And it looks at three things: thoughts, feelings, behaviors. So take an inventory of your thoughts. Do I think I'm confident? If I think I'm confident, I'm going to show up. I'm going to, command presence. So think, feel, behave. I'm going to feel good. I'm going to feel present. I'm going to feel engaged. I'm going to behave also in those ways. Sorry, I messed up some of the words there with thoughts, feelings, behaviors. However, if I'm not confident, how am I going to think of myself? I think I am not good enough. I think no one likes me. Okay, that's the thought. What's the feeling? I feel bad about myself. I feel inadequate. I feel undesired. How am I going to behave? Negative, sad, depressed. So take an inventory of thoughts, feelings, behaviors. If you don't want to do it yourself, talk to a therapist. And I'm serious about that. You can actually do it yourself. There's this book called The Art of... I'm going to get it for you. I answered that top question, but let me get you the book name. There are a couple books that I want to recommend if you guys prefer to read. Would anyone like book recommendations? Okay, great. Actually, I'm going to email you. I'll send it to you in a message because I don't want to... I think we're good. Any last minute burning questions? I should mention that I'm not going to stay after, so if you have any questions, just ask it now. You can yell, scream. I'm going to repeat it back to you to see if I got it, and hopefully that'll cure that question. So, if I am a gentleman, how do I know if I'm depressed or if I need to man up? Is it just hormones that are going on? I don't have time to be depressed. Is that essentially the nutshell? Did I miss anything that is part of that? Okay, so I want to mention a couple things. For men specifically, there's like a stronger stigma, and I'm just going to face this because there are more men on this side of the room. There's a stronger stigma for seeking therapy. Why? Because you are told you need to figure it out. You're the provider, you're the support, you're the man of the house. And these are all societal opinions that are often thrown at men, and men feel like they have to accept it and internalize it. And this creates an immense amount of pressure. Men, additionally, culturally, are pressured financially. They're pressured to look a certain way, to behave a certain way, to have a certain job, etc. So I want to empathize. Being a man is not easy, nor is being a woman. But being a man is not easy, okay? You guys face an immense amount of struggles that especially are in the mind that are never spoken out loud. Girls talk about everything, guys don't, okay? This is just reality. How do I know I need therapy? How long has it been? Is it a couple days? So generally a depressive episode is at least 2 weeks. If I'm depressed for 3 days, that's not necessarily depression, okay? Oh, and I told you I'd tell you the difference of mild, moderate, severe. Mild is 1 episode of depression. Moderate, severe, multiple episodes of depression. So we're talking about at least 2 weeks. Could last years, okay? But at least 2 weeks. So if you are feeling down, I want to go over the symptoms again. Things that are not pleasurable anymore. I used to enjoy hanging out with the guys on a Friday night watching FIFA. And that just doesn't sound fun anymore. That's a symptom of depression. Okay? If it's just 1 week, okay, I had a long week at work, I'm burnt out. That's the difference of burnout and depression. Depression is I don't have the desire. Burnout is I'm too tired to, but I want to. Okay? Take an inventory of your thoughts. How are you thinking? Are you thinking negatively, or are you able to see the silver lining? Are you hopeful? Is there any hope in this situation? Also, take a look at your sleep. Take a look at your appetite. These are also things to consider. Do you feel like I sufficiently answered that question? Or is there anything else that you want me to address? Okay, cool. Any other burning questions? Okay, sounds good. Thank you for having me.
I think we need another session, right? To follow up. You're good. You are perfect. Give yourself a credit and say, I am good. Okay? But not in the bad things. Not that because I smoke, I'm good, I'm drinking, I'm good, doing things. No. But as we heard, you are the son and daughter of Christ. So I'm good. Okay? Let's conclude in this. She mentioned many of prayers, the church. And we see a lot of people that in the church, and we see also maybe a priest depressed. There's nothing wrong with that. But she mentioned something that we have a phobia. If somebody depressed, that's bad. But how about if you are a diabetic, or you have a heart problem, if you have kidney problem or anything, you go to the doctor, right? you receive some prescription and you have to follow up the guideline. So for Christina and many of the people that in that field, they study, because many of us, we do have some depression and we're becoming up in the surface. يعني فينا ناس كتيرة عندهم الاكتئاب ده، بيغطوا عليه بطريقة معينة، لكن هم مكتئبين يعني تعبانين. فأنا لو ابتديت زي ما سمعنا في الكلمة بتاعتها، إن لا ابتديت حاسس إن أنا في اكتئاب، أتعالج أو أغير، أشوف التغيير. بولس الرسول والمسيح مكلمين على حكاية التغيير، إن إحنا لازم نتغير ذهننا، البرين ده، يعني نتغير عن أشكالنا بتجديد أذهاننا. إحنا يعني sometimes we don't know how to، يعني ما بنغذيش عقلنا بالحاجات البوزيتيف. وهي قالت برضك إن الكالتشر بتاعتنا أو الثقافة بتاعتنا، يعني حد نجح وخد دكتوراه ولا حاجة، في ناس يقول لك إيه، لا لا لا، روح اركع قدام ربنا واقعد اشكره إن أنت عرفت تنجح. طب ما تفرح. واحنا الكالتشر، الثقافه بتاعتنا، لو حد ضحك شويه اللهم اجعله خير، يعني ما تضحك. بولس الرسول يقول افرحوا في الرب، واقول لكم ايه، افرحوا كل حين. احنا اوقات ما بنعرفش نفرح. لو الواحد فرح شويه وضحك ما يصحش بقى، لازم نزعل عشان لو ضحكنا، او نمشي عكس كده 180 درجه، ان احنا نقعد نتريق على الناس ونضحك، ده كده غلط. وكده ان احنا ما نضحكش غلط. فالبالانس زي ما سمعنا النهارده كويس جدا. اي حد يعني حاسس باي حاجه، كان في سؤال الكوست فاكتور، يعني التكلفه. الكنيسه هتساعد في الحكايه دي. يعني لو حد سأل على الانشورنس ومش قادر، لان معظم السيشنز ديت is not covered by insurance as much، مش كده؟ they are. طيب في كو بيمنت، يعني ما تحطش لا انا مش هروح عشان هتبقى في الريكورد بتاعي، والدكتور ده confidential، ده ما يقدرش يعمل ريبورتنج عليك. لكن زي ما يجي لك صداع بتروح للدكتور يكتب لك بريسكريبشن. بس هو دلوقتي كمان زي ما سمعنا من كريستينا، السوشيال ميديا has a big impact and it's a big lie. السوشيال ميديا بتخلينا نفكر في حاجات above the reality. يعني احنا يقول لك ايه، come down، انزل كده واقعد معانا، بدل ما انت قاعد في كلاود 7 كده قاعد فوق وبتفكر. حلو ان انت تفكر، بس خلي بالك، لان ممكن تفكر غلط وده اللي يخليك تبقى depressed، مكتئب. خلاص، ونشوف كريستينا if she can come، يعني تقدر تجيلنا تاني عشان نكمل السيشنز لما الأسئلة كترت قوي. نعم، part 2 part 3 part لا. في أي سؤال ولا أي حاجة؟ احنا اتأخرنا شوية بس we enjoy. نعم، طيب أوكي، متشكرين. thank you very much. thank you.
مساء الخير، عاملين ايه؟ صح كده. امسك بقى. حد عارف احنا عندنا ايه coming up؟ good job. اسمه ايه بقى؟ اسم الصليب مكتوبة هنا. We have some news. It's really good news thanks to Abuna and الخدام طبعا كلهم. We're able to drop the price from 250 to 200. That price would be available. Thank you. Thank you. That price would be available until September 1st. When I say September 1st, that means by September 1st, if you don't sign up, you're not going to be able to join. There's not going to be an extended timeline. Nothing is going to happen like that. So we want, if you're planning to come, you have 7 days from today to sign up.
حاجة تانية يا شباب، أنا عارف إن في ناس already registered.
راحت عليهم.
لا no we're gonna refund الناس اللي already registered بالسعر القديم. we're gonna refund the difference. as we said فاضل أسبوع، أي حد registered كده we're gonna reach out to you guys and refund you the money. We have until September 1st عشان احنا we have obligations to do. Please you only have a week. We already have a lot of people بس spots are limited as we said. وانتو you guys have priority. Any U-turn member, you guys have a priority. So register. The link is in Instagram bio وهيبقى موجود في الكافيتيريا.
And adding on
والباركود اهو.
and adding to that point too, the earlier you do that, the better chance you can be in a room with someone that you choose. If you wait too long till the end, it's gonna be by يعني اللي signed up في الأول هو اللي هياخد ال option اللي هو choose the room. So if you wait too long, we're not gonna be able to do that as much. Do you guys have any questions?
And there's still a payment option if you guys want.
Yeah, you don't have to pay the 200 all at once. You can do
There's still a payment
4
option.
payments, which is gonna be like $50. اتفضل. So after everyone signs up, we're gonna have a group chat. We're gonna have different leaving times, and whatever works out for everyone, that's what we're gonna. Yeah, we're gonna try to leave as early as we can.
احنا we're gonna try to accommodate لكل الناس بس كده حتى لو حد هيجي متأخر هيجي.
We're gonna find rides.
We're gonna find rides.
So don't worry about the rides. Rides are gonna be figured out. If you're coming whatever time, we're gonna make sure you have a ride. And yeah.
Thank you شباب.
Thank you.
اتفضلوا نصلي. اللهم اجعلنا مستحقين لكل شكر يا أبانا الذي في السماوات، قدس اسمك، ليأتي ملكوتك، تكن مشيئتك كما في السماء كذلك على الأرض. خبزنا للغد أعطينا اليوم، واغفر لنا ذنوبنا كما نغفر نحن أيضا المذنبين إلينا، ولا تدخلنا في تجربة لكن نجينا من الشرير بالمسيح يسوع ربنا. لك الملك والقوة محبة الله الآب ونعمة ابن وحيد وشركة موهبة وعطية الروح القدس تكون معكم. امضوا بسلام. سلام الرب. Thank you for coming.